Hey everyone, my name is Jake, and today I want to show you how I built this awesome little table that I'm calling the Wilhelm. The Wilhelm is great because I used all traditional joinery and only cut those joints using just the drill press and the table saw, so it's super easy to make. At the end of the video, I'll include a link to download free plans so you can build your own Wilhelm. So the first step is to build the legs for the table. I pulled some wood off the shelf, got it cut down to length and then planed to thickness. I'll be gluing these two pieces together to come up with about 1.5 inch thick leg. Once the glue is dry, I move over to the table saw and break down the boards into the proper size for the legs. This is about 1.5 inch square. I'm going to use a drill press to create the mortises in the legs, and then chisels to trim out the waste. I use a variety of chisels here, just got to keep them really sharp. This is actually a very easy method of making mortises, a lot easier than it looks. You just got to keep at it, take your time, move slowly. The next thing I work on is the stretcher pieces. So grab some wood, I get it cut down to a rough length, and then I'm going to run it through the planer for thickness. I decided to use my jointer sled on this project to joint one edge and then rip the boards to width. For the tenons, I'm using a miter gauge on my table saw, and all I'm doing is setting the height of the blade to the offset I want for the tenon, and then nibbling away at the waste material. I do this on all four sides, and then as I'm working, I try and test the fit as I go with the mortise just to make sure that I have a good fit. Once I finished the tenons, I went back to the workbench and tested the fit of each tenon in the legs. My goal here is to make sure that the fit is good all the way around, and then as I'm working on each piece, I'm marking which tenon goes into which mortise, so that when I get around to final assembly, I can be sure that frame goes together just right with glue, and I don't have to make any last minute adjustments. After I was happy with the frame, I moved on to the top. I cut down a piece of cherry and then used my face joining sled to run the cherry through the planer. This way I could get a flat face to reference before I thickness planed the pieces. Once the pieces were planed to the proper thickness, I ripped them down on the table saw and then set them up to glue up in two setups. My idea here is to glue this in two halves so that I can run the two halves through the planer. This will reduce the amount of effort I have to put into sanding or hand planing on the tabletop for the last seam. Once the pieces were dry, I ran them through the planer and then glued the two halves together. Once the entire top was dry, I took it over to the table saw, cut it down to length, and then started sanding. I decided to finish this project with water-based polyurethane. It's not usually my favorite choice for cherry, but it's what I had available. While the top was drying, I went ahead and sanded and then applied the same water-based polyurethane to the stretchers and the leg portions. Once the finish was dry, I used my plate jointer to add some slots to the stretchers. These will be used for the tabletop clamps later on. The final glue up can be a little challenging, but the key here is to make sure you do a dry fit before applying the glue, just to make sure everything fits really well. And then move through each joint methodically and apply glue, clamp everything as you go. And then once everything's clamped together, just verify that everything's fitting and looking the way you want it to. Once the glue dries on the frame, I put everything upside down on my workbench, make sure that the frame and the top are centered, and then I use these little tabletop clips to attach the top to the frame. These clips are handy because they allow for some wood movement over time. I'm really happy with how this piece turned out. All the pieces went together really well and it was really easy to make. All the wood grain looks really good, especially with that water-based poly finish on here. I think this will last a really long time. So if you want to build your own table, make sure you check the links down below where you can go to my website, imakejake.com, and download your free set of plans. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for new videos in the future. Thanks for watching.